Hello and welcome to the Big Picture. Chinese President Xi Jinping has been elevated as the core leader of the Communist Party of China after a 4-day meeting of senior officials of the party in Beijing yesterday. This phrase, core leader, had been coined by Deng Xiaoping. Now Xi Jinping finds himself in the company of Mao Zedong, Deng Xiaoping and Jiang Zemin, who are also considered as core leaders. The party statement issued yesterday said that all the members of the party should closely unite around the Central Committee with Comrade Xi Jinping as the core. So what does this mean to Xi Jinping himself? How will it impact his role as the leader of the party and the government, and also the impact on the party itself? Also, how will this new powerful position that he holds now shape Xi Jinping's policies, and how will it impact the world? We will discuss all this today with Srikanth Kondapalli, Professor of Chinese Studies at the KJM, P.Stobdan, former ambassador and senior fellow at the IDSA, Professor Madhav Nalapat, a political analyst, and on the phone line from Beijing is KJM Varma, senior correspondent of the PTI. Welcome to all of you. Srikanth, what has led to the conferment of this title on Xi Jinping?
I think it connotes that Xi Jinping is now a more powerful leader among the Communist Party cadres. Secondly, it also suggests to a long-term for at least 6 more years and possibly in future. His position is kind of consolidated among the ranks. Thirdly, in terms of the projects that he had initiated in the recent times, including the One Belt, One Road, China Dream, China Rejuvenation. To consolidate these projects, his hands are now relatively more supported by the Communist Party cadres. I see this as a further consolidation of President Xi Jinping in the light of the anti-corruption drive, which had resulted in a little bit of problem for the Communist Party, especially in terms of murmurs. Secondly, factional equations have also been going through several transformations. In the light of the preparation for the 19th Party Congress next year, the 6th Plenum's decision suggests that the successor choice will be left to President Xi Jinping in the 20th Party Congress. It is further consolidation of President Xi Jinping position.
Mr. Stobdan, this further consolidation which Srikanth talks about, why was it needed? Was he not seen as a leader with authority, or this authority which has been conferred on him now was absolutely necessary, so that what were the problems which he was facing because of which he needed this extra authority?
Well, I think he had already consolidated his power in many ways in the last 2 to 3 years. Now it's been 4th year now in his power since 2012. But the fact is that there have been a lot of dissenter, there are a lot of this conspirator within the party who are trying to create problems for his anti-corruption campaign and other projects which Srikanth mentioned about One Road, One Belt and other bigger issues. So he was waiting for a particular moment, I think, and this is being done at the particular juncture when 1 year is now left. Next autumn there will be the Congress, 19th Congress, where the leadership change has to take place. And so therefore he needs more power, and this is the most appropriate time. And secondly, these things are done at a very critical juncture in the Chinese history. He must be facing some domestic problem, he must be facing some international problem, and to show to the world that here we have a supreme leader. This title of a core is so important. It's an expression for political authority, something in an ancient time, even in India, the Chakravartin, that title used to be given to our Samrats so that they have the complete power. Of course, in Indian context, it was more about benevolence. For example, Ashoka was given, or maybe Akbar Badshah was given. But in the context of China, This is very important. It's a symbolic, it's a currency of power. And there is a Chinese saying, without a proper title, there will be no convincing words. And without having a convincing word, nothing can be done. So therefore, in the Chinese system, a title is very important. It's very symbolic in their political setup.
Okay. Mr. Varma, the title is important, all that. What does it mean that he becoming the core leader, he being bestowed this title? Does it mean that he is going to be, some interpretation is that he is going to be an unquestioned leader from now onwards? He will have this absolute authority. Is that the way it is seen there in China?
Well, if you just compare his status with his predecessor, Hu Jintao, Hu Jintao was part of a 9-member standing committee.
Right.
That is the highest body of a body that has the top leaders of the CPC, the Communist Party of China. So in that 9-member committee, Hu Jintao was first among the equals. That was all he did. But then it was considered to be, since 1981, this party scrupulously followed this principle enunciated by Deng Xiaoping that there should be a collective leadership. So this particular standing committee it reflects that particular principle where everybody is equally powerful. Perhaps the General Secretary is little more, is first among the equals. But ever since Xi Jinping took over, he changed all that. Unlike Hu Jintao, Xi Jinping was lucky enough to start his innings of the tenure with, as General Secretary of the party, the President, and more importantly, the that is the Chairman of the Central Military Commission,
right,
the High Command of the Chinese military. So all these three made him right from the beginning, that is 2013 onwards. He started his career as the leader of this thing very strongly. But then, but he still continued in the 7-member standing committee. He still continued to be the first among the equals. I think the core status or the title that has been given to him yesterday changes probably his status far more and grants him a veto right. And he is no longer the first among the equals. He is above all of them. I think that is how it is. It is though the party in its statement yesterday has referred to the collective leadership, democratic centralism, these things. But I think it is more or less very certain that Xi is going to has asserted himself, has reached a stage where he will be the unquestionable leader, at least for the next 6 years.
Okay, that's interesting. Mr. Nalapat, this absolute authority which he seems to have got, which Varma is also talking about, the unquestioned leadership, doesn't this, isn't it a contradiction in terms, if you see the statement of the communique of the party, which says that everybody should go along with him, and it stresses the importance of collective leadership. And here it is, they're saying that he is going to be the supreme leader.
Girish,
is that how the Chinese Communist Party functions?
Well, the Chinese Communist Party functions in a very opaque way, but it has definitely been very successful in ensuring its continued grip over a country which has now become the second biggest economy in the world and is on track to become the biggest. Let me put this in context, Girish. The context is that during the time of Deng Xiaoping, Jiang Zemin, and Hu Jintao as well, the policy was basically to go along with the global, if I may say so, the architecture of the global world, in which the United States was very plainly the top country. Under Xi Jinping, there's a very deliberate effort to ensure that China first equals and then replaces the United States as the spear point, so to speak, of the global security architecture. So now that will obviously create its own problems, its own imbalances, its own tensions. Now, possibly it is felt that that kind of tension and imbalance could best be handled by a person who has got absolute command, rather than a more slower process of consensus. Consensus sometimes is slow, sometimes is not even there. Now here, when you have one person responsible, decision making can be expected to be quick. So first is the external environment, where China is now challenging the United States very openly. Internally, what Xi Jinping is doing is to try and ensure that the people who have been, for generations in command of the Communist Party, the princelings, people, in fact, a group to which he himself belongs, they were controlling the state-owned enterprises. And each state-owned enterprise was, in a sense, almost a feudal, possession of individual families. Now he is removing these families through this anti-corruption campaign, and that is creating its own dynamic within the Chinese Communist Party, in which very influential families are now being threatened. Given all this, I think it's logical that he would like to see that he has as much control as possible. This clearly indicates that the party as a whole agrees with him and is willing to give him that power.
Okay, Srikanth, you don't see any contradiction in the communique which has been issued, talking of collective leadership, democratic centralism, all that, and then this power which has been bestowed on Xi Jinping.
Well, previously there have been several cases like this, as you just mentioned, about Jiang Zemin, about Deng Xiaoping, and Mao as the leader, revolutionary as well as post-revolutionary consolidation of his leadership position all across the country post-1949. So I do not see much contradiction in this, because there has been some precedents before. Number one. Number two, in the light of 5 Politburo members, standing committee members to be retired in the 19th Party Congress, leaving only President Xi Jinping and Premier Li Keqiang to transit through the 19th to the 20th Party Congress. It is, I think, imperative for President Xi to acquire this core of the leadership. Remember, in 1989, when Jiang Zemin took over after the cataclysmic events of Tiananmen Square, he was declared as the core of the leadership, and he consolidated the party which was in turmoil in the Tiananmen Square up to 2002. And he had consolidated not just the party in terms of political education, but also the economy. China's rise is traced to Jiang Zemin in the 1990s, in terms of the GDP, in terms of the manufacturing sector, and so on and so forth. While Jiang Zemin retired in 2002, he still continued to be the CMC, Central Military Commission Chairman, till 2004. So the core of the leadership also had the power influence for Jiang Zemin, which is also partly what President Xi Jinping is looking for, in terms of the continued guidance that he can provide throughout the 19th Party Congress and at the beginning of the 20 Party Congress.
Srikanth, sorry to intervene. Srikanth, sorry to intervene. Does it mean, what has happened yesterday, does it mean that Xi Jinping will get, the second term of Xi Jinping, which will start next year after the Congress, is something which is now a certainty?
That's right. I think since no successor was named by Xi Jinping for the 5 Politburo Standing Committee members, or for the 20th Party Congress so far, it suggests that Xi Jinping is now left relatively more powerful in terms of naming the successors for the Communist Party, number one. Number two, we have seen since April this year, 17 party secretaries of the provinces out of nearly 30 have been changed, which suggests that there is some permutations, combinations happening at the local level. Since the provincial party chief position is essential under the party constitution to be promoted to become the Politburo or the Politburo Standing Committee members, so we see that there has been some ground preparation happening from April this year. So I see this as a long-term consolidation of the party at various levels, both domestically and also to showcase the leadership in a unified manner to the outside world.
Okay. Mr. P.Stobdan, the question is that, Srikanth was pointing out about the turmoil in the late 19 after the Tiananmen Square and what happened, Jiang Zemin becoming the president and all. Is it in such times of turmoil that these kind of developments take place, that leaders are declared as core leaders, which means that Xi Jinping also is going through, if not personally, the country itself is going through certain amount of turmoil, because there are question marks being raised as far as the economic situation in China is concerned, the social situation in China is concerned. Is that why that Xi Jinping needs this kind of an authority now to handle them?
Yeah, I agree with you. It is not about Xi Jinping per se. It's about Chinese Communist Party, which must be facing a lot of internal pressure. And they do such a, revolution within, only to prolong the life of the Communist Party. Mind you that Communist Party of Soviet Union lasted about 74 years. And there is a saying today that Chinese Communist Party must live longer than the Soviet Union. So Chinese Communist Party is about 57 or 58 years. So surely they must be under a lot of stress against the background of what you are just talking about, the economic situation. Chinese have uplifted more than 600 million people above the poverty line, and they have given them a modern, decent life for all this middle class. To sustain that life today itself is a challenge.
Right.
As the economy slows down, as the trade comes down, how to maintain this living standard of the rising Chinese, this middle class. So therefore, he has to carry on a lot of reforms, and there are a lot of resistance. He has started this anti-corruption campaign. Therefore, to have a single leader, which is not just questionable or nothing can be challenged even. So it's very important for China to prolong the life of the longevity of the Chinese Communist Party. Mind you that this is happening at a time when the US election is just 2 months away.
Right.
And if Hillary Clinton becomes the next president, she is going to have a tougher line. So they want to have an equally powerful president now, which cannot be questioned within. And the international community has to deal with it later firmly. And given the circumstances, the South China issue, the whole lot of conflict externally and internally, they deserve a big leader. So
Okay.
this is the significance of it.
Okay, Mr. Varma. Mr. Varma, how do you look at this? The problems within, is that one of the reasons, as I was pointing out earlier, the economic problem, the social strife, the social situation there, is that one of the reasons why he has been given this power to handle all that?
There is this big saying in China, that is, China changes every 24 hours. It's one of those very dynamic countries. Of course, we have that phrase for India too, but India changes, remains the same. But as far as China is concerned, the change is so constant and so visible. To talk about Xi Jinping's rise, I've been covering China for the past 6 years or so. And when he was inducted as the General Secretary, none of us presumed that he is going to be so powerful. Within the span of, an year or so, he consolidated his power. What helped him most in consolidation of the power? I think in many ways, the Communist Party too has a lot of diversity within. It has its own factions. It has its own ideological different leniencies. So things like that. There are hardliners, there are softliners, there are moderates, there are conservatives. But at the same time, he made use of this particular anti-corruption campaign and so effectively. And most importantly, that he made use of it to consolidate his power in the PLA, that is the People's Liberation Army, which effectively bestows a lot of power with the General Secretary and President of China. So that's what Hu Jintao was denied for two years in his first tenure. So that is how he consolidated his power. Of course, externally, internally, China has a lot of issues. They still don't have an answer to how to the slowdown, which of course is gradually abating. But at the same time, there is next 2-3 years, China still has to put up with an economic slowdown. And externally, I think China, the Asia pivot by U.S., especially into the South China Sea, has put a tremendous pressure on the Chinese system as such, because China is now arrayed against not simply U.S., but the entire South China maritime countries, including Vietnam, Brunei, Malaysia, and all, besides Japan, of course. And of course, on this side, India. So they had the strategic concerns, issues externally, boxed them for a while. But I think the new Philippine situation has really provided them a big relief. They're hoping to come out of that. But all these things helped Xi Jinping to consolidate his power, which I think there is a Xi Jinping, we're going to see a very different Xi Jinping in the next 6 years, which perhaps world may have to learn to deal with him in many ways.
Okay, that's very interesting, Mr. Nalapat. You know, Varma says that we will see a new Xi Jinping in the. What kind of, what do you expect him to do? Is his policies going to be different? And how will he look at the world? What are going to be his priorities? And of course, we'll come to how India will have to deal with it.
See, the fact of the matter is that the Chinese Communist Party's legitimacy rests on, as has been pointed out, its very good record of double-digit economic growth. Now, development and growth is the mantra of the Chinese Communist Party. Now, if that somehow falters, then the legitimacy of the party itself will be called in question, especially by the aspiring middle class and the present middle class, which are very sizable in number and which today are not willing to go back to a situation in which their living standards are very low. They are aspiring for much better living standards, in fact, and the party cannot give them that. They're going to question the party, and they're going to try and see if they can get alternatives. Now, we're seeing that in Hong Kong, for example, a search for alternatives is already on, because in Hong Kong, the economic situation for the last 4 or 5 years has not been what it was in the previous 4 or 5 years. Now, Xi Jinping understands that, and therefore you have this very huge project of One Belt, One Road.
Yes.
Now, the idea behind that project is to link Asia and Europe together and basically make China the center of commerce, Eurasian landmass. It's a very ambitious project. If it takes off, it will be a huge plus for China. It will also be a huge plus for global growth. But for that, Xi Jinping will have to ensure that certain lobbies in his own country are brought under control. Take, for example, India. India is a very important potential future partner of China economically. Chinese industry needs India, it needs Indian markets, and it needs Indian cooperation. At the same time, the PLA is completely taken up with Pakistan and adopts a very Pakistan-centric policy which creates problems in the relationship with India. Xi Jinping will have to really, make a choice. Is he willing to go along with the PLA's hardline policy towards India and sacrifice the prospects of economic growth through better integration with India economically? Or is he going to make the PLA, come to heel and adjust to his policies? On the South China Sea, China has united so many countries against it by its very aggressive posture on that. Is Xi Jinping going to continue that? Or is he going to go back to the Deng Xiaoping policy of a much milder situation, the Jiang Zemin's policy of a much milder situation? So Xi Jinping himself will need to ensure that the lobbies in his country who are frankly anti-growth because they're too hardline will need to be brought to heel.
Okay. Srikanth, so what kind of a change do you foresee in this man and his policies?
Before that, I would like to say that one of the major proponents of Xi Jinping as the core leader is recently promoted Tianjin Party Secretary, Mr. Li Hongjiang. Li Hongjiang had campaigned for President Xi to be the core of the leadership. there is a lot of churning out process within the Communist Party in terms of these debates. Now, what kind of impact will this have on the party as a whole and externally? I think this is good news for China, because they would have had a focused leader with substantial power. Remember that when the 18th Party Congress took place, President Xi Jinping was announced as the General Secretary and as the Central Military Commission Chairman. And then subsequently in 2013 March, he was mentioned as the President of the People's Republic. And the next year in 2015, we have also seen he was named as the Commander of the Armed Forces,
Right.
a new post that was created. Although Chu De in the 1950s was named also as the Commander, but with a different kind of flavor. So Xi Jinping today has, in addition to President, General Secretary, Chairman of the Central Military Commission, Chairman of the National Security Commission, and Commander of the Armed Forces, he is also now the core of the leadership. So in other words, there has been a kind of centralization, which is necessary for the kind of projects that China is looking for. So this is one major impact I would see happening in the next 6 years, and possibly spilling over into the 20th Party Congress.
Okay.
So this is one. Secondly, he has to fix a lot of things, and for this he needed the kind of backup that is necessary from the party, and so the core of the leadership would provide for several privileges for Xi Jinping, as some of the commentators also mentioned, in terms of the American elections, in terms of regional security, in terms of the One Belt, One Road. These are also some projections
Okay.
that a core of the
Srikanth.
leadership would provide for that
Okay,
backing.
Srikanth. Mr. Varma, challenges. What are the big challenges which you will face now?
Well, the one major challenge is that there is nothing much for Xi in the last, say, 4 years to show yet. We have heard about economy. Economy is still in the reform stage. The slowdown continues. There are apprehensions about job losses, and there is of course, his government has been credited with good management so far, but they have not yet found an answer to or reached the reform process that can rejig the economy to a status where they feel comfortable. Secondly, this great One Belt, One Road project, which is multi-billion, they've been sinking billions of dollars in the neighborhood. But there is not a single success story that what we heard in the neighborhood yet, where, of course, India's opposition is well known, especially the China-Pakistan economic corridor, as well as the maritime maritime Silk Road project. But at the same time, of course, I think that's where Xi and probably China is going to bank in the next 1 or 2 years to see some success stories emerging from Pakistan, especially the China-Pakistan economic corridor, where they're looking to think about over 50 billion.
Okay, Varma, I think we have completely run out of time. Sorry, but this is a very interesting development which has happened in China, and something which we'll have to keep a close watch on. India will have to keep a close watch on, because it's something which it is in India's own interest to see how Xi Jinping will now take over and do, and what kind of a leader he will turn out to be after this title has been bestowed on him. Thanks to all my guests. Please keep watching. We'll come back with another issue, The Big Picture, same time on Monday. Meanwhile, have a great weekend and a very happy Diwali to all of you.